Hello, my friend. Welcome to Whisper Before Sleep Stories. I'm David, your storyteller, sharing timeless tales from ancient legends and medieval myths to modern-day stories full of feeling. Here, you'll be wrapped in a soothing voice, relaxing sounds, and a calming space that helps you release tension, quiet your mind, and fall into a deep, restful sleep. I hope each story brings you a sense of peace, connection, and a touch of magic for your soul before you close the day. Tonight, imagine the breath of dry, warm wind curling across your skin as you stand on the edge of an ancient city in the Persian plateau. In the distance, dust dances in the golden light like smoke from invisible incense. The air smells of sun-warmed stone, ripe pomegranates, and the last hint of jasmine from some unseen garden wall. You probably won't survive this kind of beauty. It presses into your chest gently, like a hand reminding you to pause, to listen. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you really like what I do here. And while you're settling in, why not tell me where you're listening from? And what time it is, where you are. You arrive not with noise or footsteps, but with presence like something returning to a place it always knew. The city before you is ancient, its walls sun-bleached and soft-edged from centuries of wind. Dust coats the stones, and in the afternoon hush, not even the donkeys bray or the market hums. It's as though time has stepped aside for a moment to let you pass. For a moment to let you pass. Locals here do not speak loudly about the garden. They mention it only when the wind rises at night and rattles the metal lanterns outside the old houses. Even then, their voice is lower, and they glance toward the desert, as if expecting the sand to answer. They call it B.G. Gamshod, the Lost Garden. Built, they say, by order of a princess whose name has vanished, though some still call her Parisa. She was the daughter of a scholar king, quiet and kind, who wandered the palace gardens barefoot and once refused to marry because the stars hadn't given their permission. Parisa was said to speak to nightingales, to understand when the moon was lonely, to read maps not of land, but of wind. And because she would not leave the city, the king decided the city must come to her. So he summoned the greatest architect in the kingdom, a man known only as Darius, whose buildings were said to hum when the wind passed through them, whose walls sang prayers into the air. Darius did not live in the city. He lived somewhere between silence and wilderness, and it is said he arrived on the back of a camel the color of ash, wearing robes embroidered with forgotten constellations. When asked what he needed to begin, he replied, "Only 4 things: time, silence, water, and the dreams of the one it's for." Parisa did not speak during their first meeting. Instead, she drew a single spiral on a square of silk and handed it to him. He studied it for a long time before nodding and began to build. The garden was planted in layers, like a poem written in 5 verses. Each path followed the geometry of ancient star charts. Each fountain was tuned to the frequency of wind through olive trees. But more than anything, they say, it was quiet. Not silent, just full of small important sounds. Bees humming low over thyme blossoms, doves fluttering in fig branches, water tapping against stone like a soft clock made of light. And the gate, oh, the gate. No one agrees on what it looked like. Some say it was made of cedar and inlaid with lapis lazuli. Others say it was forged from metal pulled from fallen stars. But all stories agree on one thing. The gate appeared only for those who needed to find it, and you well. You must have needed something. Because today, as the wind swirls around your ankles and the desert breathes through every crack in the sandstone walls, you see it. It's not large, not grand. Just a small archway, half hidden by wild vines and wind-blown dust, set low in a forgotten wall at the edge of the city. A tangle of bougainvillea leans across it, their blossoms papery and sun-faded to a soft rose gold. You step closer. There's no lock, just a gentle weight to the air, like the garden is holding its breath. When you push open the gate, it doesn't creak, it sighs. And then you are inside. The light changes immediately. The heat softens. The colors grow deeper, more vibrant, not in a loud way, but as if the garden is more real than the world outside. You walk forward slowly, your feet brushing fallen petals, your fingers trailing along the edge of an old water channel lined with turquoise tiles. The air smells of citrus and rosewater. A breeze passes, carrying the scent of something older, cedarwood, and maybe memory. Somewhere, a bird calls out, but it sounds more like a greeting than a warning. You feel it already, that hush that settles over the soul when it finds a place it didn't realize it missed. And just ahead, at the heart of this hidden world, something waits. A story not yet finished. You move deeper into the garden, following the slow curl of a path paved with old bricks, each one carved with different patterns. Some bear stars, others spirals, a few with flowing calligraphy, too worn to read, but beautiful all the same. You imagine fingers carving them long ago, pressing symbols into wet clay under moonlight. The garden doesn't open all at once. It unfolds like something remembering itself. The path bends beside a low wall overgrown with lavender, turns past a citrus tree where small golden fruit hang like sleepy suns, and at last reveals a wide central space. Not grand, but sacred in its balance, framed with cypress and shaded by a domed trellis where vines bloom in midnight blue. At the center is a pavilion. Its roof is tiled in quiet green, and its columns lean ever so slightly inward, like they are whispering to each other. The space beneath is open and still, floored with pale stone. And standing in that stillness, you feel as if the garden is watching you, gently, curiously waiting to see what you will remember. This is where the princess met the architect. The stories say Parisa would come each morning, her slippers silent against the stone. She carried a notebook made of pressed palm leaves, and in it she drew dreams. Dariush would already be waiting, seated cross-legged in the shade, scribbling equations in dust with a twig. She never spoke aloud in those meetings. Instead, she listened to the sound of the garden as it grew, water moving through hidden channels, bees tumbling lazily through flowers, wind touching wind chimes shaped like pomegranate blossoms. And slowly, the garden began to listen back. They say Dariush designed each section to mirror something about the princess that even she didn't know. A grove of trees that only bloomed when the moon was full. A stretch of grass that curved like the shape of her smile. A reflecting pool arranged so that no matter where she stood, the sky always looked complete. One part of the garden, hidden behind a curtain of reeds, was planted only with night-blooming flowers. He called it the quiet hour, where the scents changed with the stars and where even footsteps softened into silence. Tea was here that the princess began to leave letters for him, folded notes tucked beneath stones or slipped into the hollow of a tree. No one knows what those letters said, only that, in return, Dariush changed the garden. One week, a spiral of silver-leaved plants appeared in the corner of a courtyard. Another time, a doorway led to a garden within a garden, filled with mirrors polished to reflect not faces, but the sky above. He worked in symbols, in geometry, in dreams. He planted poems instead of seeds. And somewhere between those days of stillness and bloom, the princess fell in love. Whether it was with him or with the garden he gave her, no one says for sure. But it is known that she refused again and again to leave the city, even when suitors from distant lands brought treasures and offered kingdoms. Instead, she would say, "What kingdom could compare to a place that knows me?" Darius, it said, tried once to leave, not out of pride, but humility. He believed his work was done. But the garden called him back. Its vines grew faster when he left. Its pools turned murky. The princess sent no notes. He returned in silence, and the nightingales sang again. There's a small corner of the garden where no one is allowed, not even the king. It's marked only by a circular wall of cypress, so dense you cannot see what lies beyond. Some say that's where the princess sleeps. Others say it's where her final letter is hidden, unread. And then there's the architect. No one saw him after the sandstorm. But we'll come to that later. For now, you sit in the pavilion where the princess once rested. The stone beneath you holds a soft warmth from the day, and when you close your eyes, you can almost hear the sounds as they were. The brush of silk, the scratch of stylus on palm leaf, the whisper of leaves above. There's something comforting in knowing that someone once built a space simply so another could feel at home. No need for spectacle, only meaning. The kind of meaning you feel in your bones, like a chord that hums when the right person speaks. It makes you wonder, do places remember us? Some scholars believe gardens like this were designed not just as retreats, but as maps. That Darius may have aligned the pathways to reflect celestial movements, or even spiritual passages. Some say the garden's layout mirrors the ancient Persian cosmology, the 7 sacred steps of the soul's journey. Others think it simply followed the way water flowed best. To this day, no one agrees on the real purpose of the garden, only that it worked, that those who entered felt changed. And you do too. Something about the way the light folds between branches, the way shadows feel soft, how the scent of rose and basil and ancient stone makes the breath in your chest loosen, like a knot unraveling. You wander again, deeper this time, past a broken sundial, past a low bench carved with zodiac signs whose meanings are partly lost. You touch the cool stone of a wall and find beneath the dust a symbol, something that looks like a heart crossed by a river. You wonder what it meant to her, to him, to those who found peace here before you. And as the air begins to shift cooler now, hinting at dusk, you feel it. The garden breathing around you, waiting, still alive, still listening. The sky above the garden deepens from gold to a soft, smoky lavender. Somewhere, beyond the highest palm fronds, the first stars begin to bloom, faint and unhurried. The breeze carries a faint hush with it now, the kind of quiet that wraps around the soul instead of pressing it down, a quiet that feels like trust. You keep walking. The paths seem to shape themselves around your feet now. Every curve, every turn feels intuitive, as if the garden is remembering how to lead someone through its memory. You arrive at a wide, shallow basin carved into the earth. It's not a pool, at least not now. It's dry, save for a few scattered leaves and a delicate chain of shells strung across the center. Around its rim, Small tiles glisten with the faint sheen of glazed turquoise and gold, faded but intact. This was once the centerpiece, the scholars say, the heart of the garden, and it wasn't filled with water, but with light. The princess called it the sky bowl. At night, when oil lamps were hidden beneath polished glass, it would reflect the constellations above stars, duplicated and blurred, so that the garden looked like it floated in both sky and earth. It's said that once, during a lunar eclipse, the princess danced barefoot around the basin, trailing silk dyed with crushed saffron and rose, and the stars seemed to follow her. You imagine her now, her hair tied with ribbons the color of ink, her eyes tilted upward. Alone, but never lonely. You imagine her now, her hair tied with ribbons the color of ink, her eyes tilted upward. Alone, but never lonely. Even now, the tiles still hum faintly beneath your fingers, catching traces of warmth from your skin. You lie back slowly beside the basin, staring upward as the sky above thickens into night, and something old begins to settle in the space between thoughts. The feeling of being very small, but deeply welcome. The garden was not merely beautiful. It was alive, aware in its own quiet way. It adapted to those who entered. It shifted with time. It was said to bloom differently, depending on the dreams of the person who walked its paths. Darius, the architect, once claimed the garden was designed using living geometry, a pattern so closely tied to the structure of breath, water, and longing that it could never truly be replicated. But the garden had one final secret, a chamber, somewhere beneath your feet. Historians disagree whether it was a library, a crypt, or a simple room built for solitude. Some say it was where the princess came when she could no longer speak. Others believe it was made for Darius himself, a space to vanish into, should the world grow too loud. They say there's no visible entrance, that the way in can't be found, only felt. And perhaps that's why the storm changed everything. It came without warning. A curtain of sand and wind that swallowed the outer city in hours. Walls crumbled. The eastern gate was buried, and the garden disappeared. When the storm passed days later, the outer walls still stood, but the gate could no longer be found. The sky bowl was covered in sand. The pathways were erased. Only fragments remained. A line of tiles. A fig tree that still bore fruit despite having no water. A single calligraphy panel set high on a crumbling arch, half erased but still glowing with gold leaf. And most mysterious of all, no one could find the princess, not a thread of silk, not a page from her notebook. Only the faint imprint of sandals in the softest soil near the center of the garden. Darius was never seen again either. Some claimed they had run away together. Others whispered he had built the garden not just for her, but around her, a final gift to contain the pieces of her soul. And yet, the garden endured, parts of it at least, the parts willing to be found. Even now, researchers and poets and wanderers come to this place, walking the edges of the ruins at dawn and dusk, listening to the quiet, hoping to hear something not quite of this world. And sometimes they do. A dove that sings a melody not native to this region. A patch of lavender that grows in the shape of a spiral. A faint echo beneath the earth when you place your ear to the tile near the center. To this day, no one knows for sure whether the hidden chamber exists, whether the princess truly disappeared, whether Darius left behind some final clue. But when you lie here beneath the stars, with your breath soft and steady, and the scent of ancient roses brushing your skin, you feel close to something. Not a solution, not an answer. Something better. Understanding without explanation. A kind of memory that doesn't need to be yours to feel true. As the stars sharpen above you, and the garden cools to the temperature of dream, you close your eyes for just a moment. Not to sleep, not yet, but to listen. Understanding without explanation. A kind of memory that doesn't need to be yours to feel true. As the stars sharpen above you, and the garden cools to the temperature of dream, you close your eyes for just a moment. Not to sleep, not yet, but to listen. And from deep within the earth, or your heart, or perhaps the space where those two things meet, you hear it. A note, a voice, a breath of stone remembering love. The breeze has shifted again, softening to almost nothing now, as if even the wind is leaning in to listen. Somewhere nearby, a nightingale calls low, melodic, and unhurried, its voice threading through the trees like smoke. You rise from beside the sky bowl, your fingers brushing the dusty tiles one last time. There's a pull now, subtle but certain, like the garden is gently guiding you, not outward, but inward. Beyond a cluster of date palms, you find a narrow path bordered by stone lanterns long cold. Most are broken, but a few still stand, moss-covered and leaning. The path winds through an orchard of quince and almond trees, and as you walk, your footsteps feel quieter, your thoughts a little further away. You reach a circular clearing. At its center stands a single cypress tree, tall and straight, its trunk wide and silver gray in the moonlight. Around its base, the soil is undisturbed, but something about it feels different, not newer, just waiting. This is the place the scholars speak of in footnotes and fragments. The place the princess visited alone in her final days. Some say she sat beneath the tree and sang lullabies to the stars. Others believe she buried something here, a message, a letter, perhaps even a part of herself. But no one has ever unearthed it. The garden will not allow digging. Any attempt to disturb this place results in gentle but undeniable failure. Tools left behind, paths forgotten, the gate lost once more. You kneel, not to dig, but to rest. Your hand touches the earth, warm and soft, and you close your eyes again. And there it is, that feeling, not memory, not sound, but something else. A presence, not watching, exactly. More like knowing, and then something new. A voice. Not spoken aloud, not even imagined, but heard in the space just behind waking. You are not the first to carry longing like water. The words settle in you like seeds, and though they offer no answers, no map or key, they leave behind a sense of permission, that it is okay to carry questions, that mystery can be sanctuary too. You lie back in the grass, the cypress branches stretching above like open arms. The stars are sharper, now like they've drawn closer, curious about you. You think again of Darius. They say, in the final days of the garden, he walked without paper, without tools, that he merely listened, that he believed the garden was complete when it could sing back to the one who wandered. It's said that the last structure he built was invisible, not made of stone or tile, but of space, silence, and story. And you wonder now if perhaps that structure is what you're standing in. That the garden itself, what remains of it, is the message. A kind of whispered architecture, meant not to be found, but felt. Your eyes close again, and now your mind drifts gently, not like a stone sinking, but a feather turning slowly in warm air. Somewhere, buried deep in the folds of Persian poetry, is a reference to a garden that changes its shape each time it's entered. A place only visible in dreams, or to those who carry longing without bitterness. Researchers still wonder if this myth refers to a real location, an ancient garden lost to sand and time, or if it's something older, a metaphor perhaps, for the hidden places we build in ourselves when the world becomes too loud. No one agrees. No one knows for sure. But the scent of jasmine tonight says yes. Yes, it was real. And yes, it still waits. In your quietest questions, in the hush between breaths, in places where beauty is built with no need to be seen, the stars above are blinking slower now. Even the nightingale has quieted. You listen to the gentle hush of leaves, the soft thrum of blood in your fingertips, and the echo of a love story that needed no ending. You stay a little longer beneath the cypress tree, not to discover, not to solve, only to be. And in that stillness, the garden holds you not as a visitor, but as someone it always knew would return. The night has deepened into its quietest shade, that soft, weightless dark that wraps everything in velvet and hush. You hardly notice the transition. It's as though time in this garden doesn't pass so much as dissolve. Even your breathing has slowed, syncing with the rhythm of leaves brushing one another, of petals folding inward to sleep. You haven't moved for a while, still lying beneath the cypress tree. But you don't feel stillness as stagnation. You feel it as something sacred. A conversation without words, a kind of remembering that flows from earth to heart without needing to be named. In the center of your vision, between branches, the stars seem to shimmer with intention. Not flickering, no, more like winking. Slowly, gently, like someone across a room who knows your name even if you haven't said it aloud. And maybe, in this garden, the sky does know your name. You think back to what the princess might have seen on nights like this. Whether she knelt in the very spot you lie now, hands resting softly on her lap, listening for the sound of Dariush's footsteps, or perhaps watching the reflection of constellations ripple across the sky bowl's mirrored surface. And maybe, in this garden, the sky does know your name. You think back to what the princess might have seen on nights like this. Whether she knelt in the very spot you lie now, hands resting softly on her lap, listening for the sound of Dariush's footsteps, or perhaps watching the reflection of constellations ripple across the sky bowl's mirrored surface. Maybe she wrote poems here, or hummed lullabies from her childhood, or simply sat in silence, feeling the night seep into her skin and carry away the noise of the world. There's something in that idea that comforts you deeply, that a long-lost princess could find peace not in a palace, not in a throne room, but here, beneath a tree that whispered and didn't need answers. And as for Dariush, you imagine him too. Chalk dust on his fingers, knees stained with clay, eyes tired but kind. Maybe he knew from the start that the garden wouldn't last forever in the way things usually do. But maybe he hoped it would last where it mattered, in memory, in feeling, in moments like this. A rustle draws your attention. Not urgent, not loud, just the shift of something nearby, soft and natural, like silk brushing against silk. You glance up and see nothing at first. Then, in the narrowest part of the clearing, you catch a glimpse of movement, a ripple in the air, like heat or water or thought. It lingers for a second, too. Then it's gone. You don't chase it. You don't need to. Some things in this world are not meant to be followed. They're meant to be witnessed, welcomed, and then released. You rise slowly, your legs a little stiff, but your mind light and quiet. Your body feels like it's been bathed in moonlight, cleaner, clearer, emptied of weight you didn't know you carried. There's nothing to find now, because nothing is missing. You begin the walk back. The garden leads you this time, opening gently like a book you already know how to read. The tiles beneath your feet feel warmer than before, and the path, though the same, now holds a different kind of quiet, not of mystery, but of peace. At the archway where you first entered, you pause and look back. The stars above the garden seem closer somehow. The scent of jasmine and old stone lingers, and you wonder if the princess ever stood in this exact spot, saying goodbye to something she could never truly leave. You let your fingers trail along the wall, and for just a second, you think you feel a pulse beneath the stone. Not a heartbeat, not exactly, but something alive. A knowing, a promise. And now, my friend, as your own eyes grow heavier and your breath deepens with each passing moment, we come to the quiet closing of this journey. The night has curled fully around you now, gentle and watchful. Every part of you is wrapped in the hush of old stories and soft shadows. There is nothing more to wonder about tonight. No questions to solve. No endings to write. Only this. A garden behind a wall, somewhere beyond time and map, where a princess loved quietly. An architect dreamed in patterns, and a space was built that remembers you. Let your thoughts drift like petals floating in still water. Let the last of your tension slip down, away, into the earth. You are safe here. You are known here. And whether the garden was ever real in the way walls are real, or whether it exists only in the places longing leads you dot, 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 no. What matters is that you found it, and you can return whenever the world feels too loud. Just close your eyes and step beyond the stone wall.